People think betrayal announces itself loudly. It doesn't. It arrives softly, like a habit changing shape. For years, my mornings with Melissa Carter followed a rhythm I could set my watch to. Coffee brewed at 6:20. She'd lean against the counter scrolling through emails, half listening while I talked about nothing important. Traffic, a meeting, weekend plans. She used to smile without thinking, used to ask follow-up questions, used to touch my arm when she laughed. Then the touches disappeared first. Not dramatically, just less. A step back here, a distracted nod there. I told myself this was marriage, long-term love, comfort, growth. That's what men say when they don't want to admit they're being slowly shut out. Melissa had always been ambitious. That was part of what drew me to her. She liked feeling admired, needed, seen. Lately, though, admiration from me felt like background noise to her. Her phone mattered more. Her schedule mattered more. Her reflection in the mirror lasted longer than our conversations. She started staying out later, always with a reason that sounded responsible enough not to argue with. Client dinner. Emergency planning session. Team bonding thing. I can't skip this. I never accused. Never raised my voice. I believed trust was something you protected by not questioning every shadow. But even trust gets tired of being ignored. At night, she'd slide into bed quietly, back turned toward me. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering when we'd stopped ending our days together, wondering why the distance between us felt wider than the mattress. I still wanted her. That was the cruel part. I still reached for her, still noticed the way she dressed differently now, sharper, more deliberate. She'd come home energized, almost glowing, like someone had flipped a switch inside her. That energy never belonged to us anymore. Sometimes she talked about feeling alive again. I nodded like a supportive husband while something cold settled in my chest. Our anniversary was coming up. I planned it quietly, carefully. A restaurant she loved, reservations weeks in advance. A small gift that meant something personal, not flashy. I told myself this night could reset things, remind her who we were before life got complicated. That morning, she barely looked at the date when I mentioned it. "Oh," she said, distracted. "Tonight, right?" I ignored the knot in my stomach and smiled anyway. The day dragged. Every hour felt heavier. By evening, I was dressed and ready, checking my phone more often than I'd admit. When her message finally came, it wasn't relief I felt. It was resignation. She said something had come up. Something urgent. Something unavoidable. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. "Okay," I typed. Nothing else. I sat alone that night, not yet knowing that this wasn't just a missed anniversary. It was the final confirmation of something I'd been refusing to name. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that while I was choosing patience, someone else had decided I deserved the truth, and it was already on its way to me. I stayed seated long after the restaurant staff cleared the table. I didn't rush home. I didn't call Melissa again. I walked instead, slow, aimless, letting the night air cool the heat in my chest. I told myself I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was still trying to understand. That illusion lasted exactly 53 minutes. My phone buzzed as I stood under a streetlight, the screen lighting up with a number I didn't recognize. For a second, I considered ignoring it. Some instinct told me my life was about to split into a before and an after. I opened the message. It was short, precise, almost clinical. "I don't know you, but I think you deserve to know. Your wife isn't at work. She's with my fiancé. Here's the address." Below it was a location pin. I didn't respond right away. I reread the message 3 times, as if repetition would turn it into a mistake. Then I noticed the timestamp. Recent. Very recent. My hands didn't shake. That surprised me. I typed back one line. "Are you sure?" The reply came instantly. "I'm standing outside." Something inside me went very still. I drove without speeding, without music, without thinking about consequences. My mind didn't race. It sharpened. Every detail around me felt painfully clear. The glow of traffic lights, the hum of the engine, the steady beat of my own breath. The address led to a quiet residential street lined with modern townhomes. The kind of place people rented when they didn't want questions, when they wanted privacy without commitment. I parked half a block away. That's when I saw her. Lauren Mitchell stood near the entrance, arms folded tight against herself. She looked composed from a distance, but when I stepped closer, I saw it in her eyes. The look of someone who had already cried and refused to do it again. "You're Daniel," she said. Not a question. I nodded. "I didn't want to do this publicly," she continued, voice steady but strained. "But I'm done protecting people who don't protect me." She didn't point or accuse. She simply stepped aside. Through the glass doors, I saw them, Melissa and Ryan Holloway. They weren't arguing. They weren't hiding. They were relaxed. Too relaxed. Sitting close, laughing softly, his hand resting on her knee like it belonged there, like it had done that before. I felt something break cleanly inside me, not violently, precisely. "How long?" I asked. Lauren didn't hesitate. "Months." That was the moment anger finally arrived, but it wasn't wild. It was focused. I didn't confront them, not yet. Instead, I did something unexpected. I called my sister. Rebecca Carter answered on the second ring. I didn't explain everything. I didn't need to. "Can you come with Mom and Dad?" I asked calmly. "And bring Melissa's brother." There was a pause. "Daniel, what's going on?" "Just trust me," I said. "Tonight matters." Then I made one more call. Lauren watched me carefully. "What are you doing?" "Making sure no one gets to rewrite what happened," I replied. "Families have a way of grounding the truth. They don't let lies float freely. They force reality to sit at the table." When we returned to the entrance 20 minutes later, I didn't knock. I used the access code Ryan had clearly shared too easily. The door opened on laughter. Melissa froze when she saw me. For a fraction of a second, her face revealed everything: shock, fear, calculation. Ryan stood up so fast he knocked his chair back. "Daniel," Melissa started. I raised my hand. Calm, controlled. "Wait." Then the elevator doors behind us opened. Lauren stepped forward first, then my parents, Rebecca, and Mark Reynolds, Melissa's brother, his face tightening as he took in the scene. No one spoke for several seconds. The room felt smaller with every heartbeat. Ryan tried to recover. "This isn't—" Lauren cut him off. "Don't." Melissa looked at me like she was searching for the right version of me to appeal to. The forgiving one, the patient one, the man who always waited. I didn't give her that man. "I didn't come to argue," I said evenly. "I came to observe." Her mouth opened, closed. Mark spoke next. "Melissa, what is this?" She glanced around, trapped now, stories collapsing before they could be told. "I can explain," she whispered. I nodded slowly. "Good, because tomorrow, everything changes." Ryan scoffed nervously. "You can't just—" I turned to him for the first time. "You're done talking." The room went silent again. No yelling, no chaos, just the sound of consequences arriving early. As we walked out together, I felt something unexpected, not relief, not triumph. Clarity. They thought secrecy gave them power. They had no idea what I'd already set in motion. The night didn't end with shouting or slammed doors. That would have been too easy, too temporary. Instead, it ended with silence, the kind that presses in on you and refuses to let you sleep. Melissa didn't come home. I knew she wouldn't. I sat at the kitchen table long after midnight, staring at the place where her keys used to land every night. My phone stayed face down. I didn't want explanations. I didn't want apologies formed under pressure. I wanted truth that didn't need rehearsing. By morning, the shock had burned off, leaving something harder behind. Resolve. Melissa finally called just after sunrise. Her voice was careful, soft, like she was walking across thin ice. Daniel, I didn't plan for this to happen. I closed my eyes. Nothing ever plans to happen, I said quietly. It just gets chosen. She started crying, not loudly, strategically, the kind of tears meant to soften edges. I felt invisible, she said. I needed to feel wanted again. I let the words hang between us. You were wanted, I replied. You just stopped wanting what you already had. That was when her tone shifted, subtle, defensive. You weren't there like you used to be. There it was, the first attempt to move responsibility off herself. I was there every morning, I said, every night, every holiday. I was there while you were elsewhere. She didn't answer. I'm filing paperwork today, I continued. Not for drama, for clarity. She inhaled sharply. So that's it? That depends on what you do next, I said. But understand this, whatever happens, I won't be confused anymore. I hung up before she could reframe the story again. Over the next few days, I moved deliberately, quietly. I didn't rant to friends or post vague messages online. I met with my attorney. I met with my financial advisor. I reviewed documents Melissa had stopped paying attention to long ago. There's something people forget when they assume stability equals weakness. I had built our life carefully, which meant I understood every part of it. Joint accounts were frozen, not emptied, just protected. Access to certain privileges Melissa had taken for granted was paused pending review, not to punish, but to prevent chaos. Ryan, on the other hand, didn't get the luxury of preparation. Lauren called me 2 days later. Her voice sounded steadier now. I ended the engagement, she said. But I wanted you to know. He's telling people a different version of what happened. I smiled for the first time since the anniversary. I assumed he would, I replied. What Ryan didn't know was that his professional life and personal reputation overlapped more than he realized. He'd been careless, messaging during meetings, using shared spaces, making promises where people could overhear. I didn't leak anything. I didn't threaten. I simply stopped protecting silence. When questions came, I answered truthfully. When asked why partnerships were reconsidered, I cited ethics concerns. When people noticed sudden distance, they filled in the blanks themselves. By the end of the week, Ryan wasn't hosting dinners anymore. He was canceling them. Melissa returned home on the 5th day. She stood in the doorway like a guest, unsure of her welcome. Her confidence was gone, replaced by uncertainty she couldn't style away. I want to fix this, she said. I studied her face, the woman I had loved, the stranger she'd become. Why now? I asked. Because I lost everything, she whispered. I shook my head gently. No, you lost control. That's not the same thing. She sat across from me, hands trembling. I never meant to hurt you. I know, I said. You just didn't prioritize not hurting me. That landed. I'm not angry anymore, I continued. But I'm not the same man either. She looked up. Is there any chance? I thought about the nights I'd waited, the moments I'd excused, the version of myself that believed patience could substitute for respect. There's a chance for growth, I said carefully, but not a return. Tears slid down her cheeks, real this time, not strategic, just human. I stood. I hope you learn from this, I added. I already have. As she packed later that day, I felt something lift, not happiness, peace. The revenge people expect is loud, humiliation, destruction, spectacle. Mine was quieter. I let the truth stand fully exposed. I let consequences arrive without interference. And I chose myself without apology. The story wasn't over yet, but the power had already shifted. The house felt different once Melissa left. Not empty, lighter, like it had been holding its breath for months and finally let the air out. I didn't rush to fill the silence. I let it sit with me. Every room held memories, but they no longer controlled me. I walked through the kitchen one morning and realized I wasn't bracing myself for disappointment anymore. That alone felt like progress. Word traveled fast, but not in the way people expect. There were no dramatic confrontations afterward. No public scenes. Just quiet shifts. Invitations stopped coming for some people. Others started reaching out, curious but cautious. I answered what mattered and ignored what didn't. Ryan tried once to contact me. A long message. Defensive. Carefully worded. I didn't respond. Some conversations don't deserve continuation. Lauren, on the other hand, met me for coffee a few weeks later. Not to relive the pain, just to acknowledge survival. "You handled it with dignity," she said. "Most people don't." "I didn't want revenge," I replied. "I wanted my life back." She smiled. "That's better." Melissa sent one final message before the paperwork finalized. "I see now what I threw away. I read it once and archived it. Closure doesn't always need a reply." Months passed, slowly, deliberately. I rebuilt routines that belonged to me. Morning runs, dinners with family, weekends that felt intentional instead of avoided. I stopped measuring my worth by someone else's attention. One evening, Rebecca asked me something that stayed with me. "Do you ever regret how calmly you handled it?" I thought about that. "No," I said. Calm wasn't weakness. It was clarity. People underestimate the power of walking away without bitterness, of letting others sit with the echo of their choices while you move forward. Melissa and Ryan lost more than relationships. They lost trust, credibility, the quiet confidence that comes from integrity. Those things don't return easily. I gained something better, self-respect. If there's a lesson in all of this, it isn't about catching someone in the act or exposing secrets. It's about knowing when love turns into habit and when patience turns into self-neglect. The night I showed up with both families didn't end in chaos. It ended in truth. And truth, once seen clearly, doesn't need noise to do its work. I didn't win by hurting anyone. I won by refusing to lose myself.